Last night saw the first half of the 2020 WWE Draft, and I'll be going into full draft detail during my SmackDown review later on in this video, but there's currently one undrafted name that nearly moved back to NXT. Kevin Owens made a shock return at NXT TakeOver War Games last year, and according to KO, this one-off was supposed to turn into a permanent move back to the black and yellow brand. Speaking to Bleacher Report, he said, "Last year at some point I was going back to NXT. It was all in motion and it was all going to happen, and then it didn't. To say that's a thought that crossed my mind would be an understatement, but I would tell you right now that that's not the case anymore. That's just not where I'm at anymore. Now I want to be on Raw or be on SmackDown and just fight like hell to create some memorable moments for everybody. That's all I want at this point." Would you have wanted Owens to return to NXT? Let me know in the comments because I'll be replying to people from out of nowhere. Speaking of shock returns, Edge returned earlier this year at the Royal Rumble after he was forced to retire in 2011. And now it seems the retired stars returning may not be over, as Paige may be on the cusp of her own return, after she suffered a neck injury following a Sasha Banks kick at the end of 2016, and there have been no teasers on WWE TV that she has any plans to return to the ring. She's consistently rejected any suggestion that she's looking to make a return, but her latest post on Twitter might suggest otherwise. Posting a photo of herself in a neck brace, Paige said, "Recycled pic, but spent the last 2 years of my in-ring career with this neck brace. 6 screws and 2 fusions later, my neck feels wonderful. Can you let me in yet, coach?" She also used the old "never say never" line during an interview with Inside the Ropes earlier this year, and admitted that Edge's return gave a lot of people hope that their retirements may not be final. But now, guess what? It's time for the return of Who's Vince McMahon high on backstage? What, we don't have the budget for that anymore? This is all lukewarm Luke Owens' fault. It's Aalyah Mysterio. Vince McMahon is high on Aalyah Mysterio. According to WrestlingNews.co, Vince McMahon is a very big fan of Aalyah Mysterio, who's been appearing on Raw with increasing frequency in the past few weeks. She is currently involved in a controversial storyline with her family, Seth Rollins and Buddy Murphy, and it'll be interesting to see what her fate is after Rey Mysterio and Dominic were moved to SmackDown in last night's draft. Don't be surprised if Vince offers her a full-time contract. He sees star potential in her. You will see her in multiple segments on some shows going forward. But now it's time for a review of last night's SmackDown, the first night of the draft, in about 5 minutes. Thank you for being an awesome pledgehammer on Patreon. Will always mark out for Ollie Landrum. The show kicked off with Stephanie McMahon, who is going to be overseeing the draft. Never misses an opportunity to try and get herself over. We got straight into the draft, with each round having 3 Raw picks and 2 SmackDown picks, which started with Raw picking WWE Champion Drew McIntyre and SmackDown picking Universal Champion Roman Reigns. Nothing unexpected there, which continued with Raw picking Raw Women's Champion Asuka, while SmackDown picked the first brand trade of the night in Seth Rollins. Now this, I'm actually quite excited for. Anything to get him away from Rey and Dominic on Mondays so he can have some fresh feuds. Raw rounded out the first round by picking the Hurt Business. After that, we got Big E versus Sheamus in a brutal Falls Count Anywhere match filled with weapons, blood, flour, and eggs, both of them being put through and on cars, with an awesome finish of Big E hitting a big ending to Sheamus off a car through a table for the win. This was pretty great. Backstage, Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods made their returns to celebrate and rejoiced that they were finally back together. Boy, I sure hope nothing happens to them by the end of the night. They also say they want the SmackDown Tag Team Championships, and then Stephanie announces at the start of the next round of draft picks that they'll be getting a shot later on tonight. Oh, okay then. They just get it? No number 1 contenders match or anything? Okay. Jey Uso and Roman Reigns went back and forth via the Titantron, with Reigns revealing the Hell in a Cell match between them will also be an I Quit match, a perfect stipulation for their feud so far. Jey won't acknowledge Roman as the tribal chief, but maybe he will when he forces him to quit. Up next was the second round of draft picks, which saw AJ Styles return to Raw, probably just wanting to get away from Heyman, Sasha Banks stay on SmackDown, Naomi get moved over to Raw, SmackDown pick up Bianca Belair, you know, the brand that hasn't been airing her video packages, and Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler stay on Raw, which Michael Cole was quick to remind us that technically they could be on any brand as their women's tag team champions. I guess they just Forgot about that. Up next was a 2-minute match between Jeff Hardy and Matt Riddle versus Miz and Morrison, and boy didn't they know it, because they managed to squeeze in about 10 minutes worth of match. Riddle and Hardy won, of course, but the big news came after the match. Lars Sullivan made his return to WWE after it had been speculated he might not return at all, and he beat up everybody in the ring. I don't like this, and not just from a personal standpoint though, that is the main reason, but Sullivan feels much more like a Raw guy to me. Stick him on Raw Underground or something if you have to use him. Which you don't, by the way. That's always an option, you don't have to use him. After that was the round 3 picks for the draft, which saw Raw take Ricochet for some reason. Like, I know Ricochet's great, but in kayfabe, why wouldn't you take someone else? Literally, like, anyone else is probably better than Ricochet. SmackDown responded by picking Jey Uso. Raw kept hold of Mandy Rose before SmackDown picked up Rey and Dominic Mysterio, who confirmed in a backstage promo they're not done with Seth Rollins. Why? Why aren't you done with Seth Rollins? Why can't you be done with Seth Rollins? Please just move on. The round concluded with Miz and Morrison being drafted to Raw, so now they can go and lose to the Street Profits or something. After that was the SmackDown Women's Championship match between Sasha Banks and Bayley, and yes, it actually happened. After speculation that Bayley vs Banks could main event WrestleMania, it didn't do that, or main event a Big Four, or main event a B pay-per-view, or even main event SmackDown. This was a match, lost in the drama of the draft throughout the night. And it ended in DQ, because of course it did. The first time that Banks and Bayley can properly get their hands on each other following Bayley's attacks on Banks, and it's wasted on a 5-minute match that ends with Bayley DQing herself. I do not understand why this match happened. What was the point? Banks challenged Bayley in a backstage promo to a Hell in a Cell match later on, so what was the point of this match? Why didn't you just have the Hell in a Cell match? I don't get it. Why give away big matches on free TV? It doesn't make any sense. Speaking of stuff that doesn't make any sense, New Day came out next for their SmackDown Tag Team Championship match that they didn't earn against Cesaro and Nakamura. And what are the chances? New Day won! It was a very good match, which is unsurprising given the people involved, and it really is great to see Woods back in the ring. But what came next doesn't make any sense, which really should become WWE's new slogan. WWE doesn't make any sense. New Day are left celebrating their tag title win, and the next round of draft picks gets underway, with Raw drafting SmackDown Tag Team Champions Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods. I'm just gonna let that sink in. Kingston and Woods, not Big E. New Day were listed as 3 people which they could take for 1 pick if they wanted to, but they didn't want Big E. For no reason. SmackDown then immediately picked Big E. So New Day have officially split up. I hate it. It doesn't make any sense. The only way it can make sense from here is for Big E to have requested his separation from New Day, which I hate. If you want Big E to have a singles run, give the man a singles run. Kofi Kingston was WWE champion while still being part of the New Day. You don't need to separate them to give Big E a singles run. And why wouldn't Raw draft all 3 of them in kayfabe? There is literally no argument for taking all 3 members instead of just Woods and Kingston. I don't understand. This company. Raw then picked Dana Brooke, SmackDown picked Otis but not Tucker for some reason. I don't have the energy to spend on this anymore, and Raw got Angel Garza. Then came the bonkers announcement that it's the season premiere of SmackDown next week, which also doesn't make any sense because SmackDown doesn't have seasons. It's a continual product. Good God. And on that show, Roman Reigns is defending his Universal Championship against Braun Strowman. Why is he doing that? Why? The whole character you've got going for Roman is that he's a prize fighter, and even when he fights, he shows up and wins. That's his thing. Why would you have him defend his belt on a random episode of SmackDown when we know he's going to win because he's already got a Hell in a Cell I Quit match against Jey Uso for the title at the show? And against Braun Strowman of all people? This company. New Day are also going to have a farewell match on SmackDown next week too, because 1 week after the draft and they're already not sticking to it. I swear to God, if Big E turns heel next week. And finally, we got The Fiend versus Kevin Owens in the main event, which was pretty good and had a cool finishing spot of Owens hitting a stunner, but The Fiend, who'd already locked in the mandible claw, maintained control, hit a Uranagi with the hand still in his mouth, and won. Then the lights cut out, Fiend is on the stage with Alexa Bliss, they both turn and look at Owens, and then then turn back to each other, and then the lights cut out. Ooh, an intriguing end to the show. Just kidding, Michael Cole's back on our screens to remind us it's Reigns fighting Strowman for the title next week on the season premiere. Okay, bye! What sort of ending was that? This show was bonkers, and not in a good way. There is so much stuff on this show that just doesn't make any sense. I don't like Sullivan coming back. New Day splitting can only be justified by someone requesting their split from the group, which goes against the whole group's motto of togetherness and positivity, and they shouldn't have had a title shot without earning it. Reigns is defending his championship next week against Braun Strowman for no reason. Bayley and Banks had a random match on SmackDown that ended in DQ. Otis got drafted but not Tucker, and Mysterio and Rollins are continuing to feud on SmackDown. I feel like I'm going insane. Having said that, the wrestling on this week's show was really good, so the episode gets a very generous smack bang in the middle 3 out of 5. But that's only because the matches were really good. Mostly. If you want to learn your wrestling history but don't have the time, we've got a brand new series over on Parts Fun Known called Fast Feuds, looking at iconic wrestling feuds and breaking it all down in a quick and snappy format. Check out the first episode about Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage by pressing the video to the right, and check out our new actually good series on Phenomenerds, where lukewarm Luke Owen looks at whether Monopoly is actually good. I've been Corporate Chopper. Jam that jab.